session entitled Innovation and New Competition in the Digital Era. Our esteemed speaker is partner MENA, insurance leader at EY. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jonathan Matchett. Over to you, Jonathan.
Super, thank you. So good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the BIBF for giving me the opportunity to speak today. This is a really interesting and relevant topic, so I'm really pleased to be able to have this discussion with the Bahrain insurance community. First of all, let me introduce myself. So Jonathan Matchett, I'm a consulting partner at EY, and I'm also EY's insurance leader for the Middle East region. I've been an insurance executive for around 18 years. The first 5 years of which were doing technology consulting in the UK, and the last 13 years have been in the Middle East. I live in Bahrain, but I have the benefit of working across the MENA region, which gives me the opportunity to look at what's happening in other countries and to be able to impart some of that knowledge and learning in this session today. In my career, I've also done both consulting and industry roles, so I've sat on both sides of the table, so to speak. My most recent industry role was I was the Regional Chief Operating Officer for RSA Insurance across the Middle East. And one of my responsibilities within that role was to run a large digital transformation program focused on P&C insurance and specifically motor. So I do have firsthand experience of actually implementing large digital programs as well as advising clients on that. Okay. So now let me open my presentation. Okay, super. So I was asked today to do a presentation on the subject of innovation and new competition in the digital era. This is an extremely interesting topic to discuss, and I hope what I'm able to do today is to give people watching the webinar a little bit of insight, a little bit of stimulation on what innovation is happening in the sector and what competition is doing. Because insurance is one of those sectors where very little that people do is true innovation. Rather, it is building on other ideas and concepts that have gone before and making those relevant to your customers, your market, your business. Okay. I'm going to start with innovation. Okay, and when I start with innovation, I'm going to start with trends. And the reason I'm doing this is because, as was said by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, necessity is the mother of all invention. Okay, people innovate most effectively when they have to, and this is the point the insurance sector is in now is one where there is significant disruption on it, which is triggering significant innovation. On the screen here, we have some key technology, some key trends which are disrupting the sector. We have new technology, we have data, we have workforce of the future, we have the market trends, we have regulation, we have customer expectations. And there's a couple of points that I want to make on these. The first one is that some of these trends are not cyclical or linear, but they're exponential. Okay, if you look at the velocity of new technology, this is something which is accelerating. Often people think about innovation waves and they think, okay, we have to ride the wave and keep the ship steady till we reach calmer waters. But actually, that's not the situation anymore. Innovation is, disruption is constant, and therefore the need for innovation is continuous as well. The other point I want to mention as well is that COVID-19 and the impact that has had on the local economies in the insurance sector has resulted in a step change in some of these components, and then also the innovation that's triggering because of that. Most notably is the change in customer expectations. Okay, so pre-COVID in the Middle East, there was always a question around customer adoption of digital financial services. Whilst customer adoption of other digital services like e-commerce, like social media was high, it was not so high in financial services. What COVID-19 has done is it has changed people's expectation for on-demand digital services across every aspect of their lives. And what that means for the insurance sector is that lots of insurance companies with physical infrastructure are having to pivot quickly to digital infrastructure. Okay. All right. Now, at EY, we look at innovation across 8 categories. Okay. Now, I have to say, when you try to categorize innovation, it is a really challenging thing to do. Because if I put a categorization up today, if I look at it again in 6 months, it could be different. And like 3 months again, it could be different again. The other thing is that the lines between these categories are very much blurred, because as new companies and new innovations come to the market, they take components from each of these and they combine them into new solutions. So it's not a very simple categorization. What I want to do today is to spend a little time giving you some examples of best practice innovation across some of these categories. I want to cover life, general, and health insurance as well, so that all the participants are adequately covered. And the idea is, like I said, to give you some stimulation and insight that you may be able to take back to your company and think about how you may change what you do. Okay. So I'm going to start with lemonade. It's a very common and well-known example, but the reason I want to do that is I want to highlight 2 things that lemonade were pioneers of, which are now very common in the digital sphere. The first one was conversational customer journeys. Okay, this was massively disruptive because a lot of insurance companies stick with standard data entry type customer journeys. The conversational customer journey dramatically changed the customer experience of buying insurance, made it much simpler, much more personalized. And now you see this across everywhere in insurance. The second thing was end-to-end automation. Now, a lot of insurance companies had invested in automation, but the problem is if you automate 90% of the process or 95% or even 99% of the process, and then the final step is a manual step, which takes 3 days to complete, you have defeated the point of your automation. What Lemonade did is to say, we do end-to-end automation. All right, and you can see this now in the claim payment stats from Lemonade. It takes around 3 minutes to get a claim paid. All right, let's talk about life insurance for a minute. Now, COVID-19 really disrupted a lot of life insurers who were traditionally based around direct face-to-face selling. When the COVID remote working restrictions came in, they found that they weren't able to sell. Now, a platform which has become very, very common now in the recent months with life insurers is Umperli. It's a Polish system. EY has actually implemented this with a large life insurance company in Poland. But what this does is allows face-to-face interaction like a video call, but it also provides a whole series of other capabilities. It provides remote client identification using biometrics and OCR, okay, to allow you to do the KYC. And it also allows you to do contract binding, all right? Which means as a life insurance agent, you can now do the full sales cycle on an automated basis using this software. It's fully aligned with regulatory requirements and is now being actively used. Let's talk about medical insurance. Okay, so a great example of medical insurance, I think, is Ping An. Ping An are probably the #1 innovator in health insurance globally at the minute. They created a telehealth proposition a number of years ago, which they called Ping An Good Doctor service. Okay, you could go online and do a consultation. They have evolved this just this year into what they call their 1-minute virtual clinics. Okay, so this is a kiosk, as you can see in the picture, where a policyholder can come in, can do a consultation with the doctor. Well, first of all, there's an initial triage, which is done by AI. You then have a consultation with the doctor, and then the doctor is able to prescribe you medicine, which is dispensed by the kiosk outside. It's fantastically innovative. Now, these things, this is a bit of a double-edged sword, because what we see in health insurance is the introduction of telehealth has reduced the cost of services, but it has increased the frequency, okay? So net, the cost of provision of healthcare, it's increased it, but people are working on models to try to bring that down. Okay, this is another example of what we call proactive risk management. All right, so this is a Canadian-based company called Roost, and this leverages IoT technology and what is now called the connected home. So what they do is they provide you with a series of sensors that can attach to smoke alarms, that can attach to water pipes, that can detect water leaks, that can detect smoke instances and proactively alert you and trigger action to help you prevent and mitigate the loss. One of the great things about it is that when it comes to release of water claims, which are quite common in North America and Europe, the longer you leave the incident unattended, the more severe the claim is, okay? Because the water leaks out and gradually causes more and more damage. The earlier you get to it, the lower the cost is. And also from a customer point of view, you've dramatically reduced the level of inconvenience that they face. I want to talk about another really interesting concept in insurance, which is peer-to-peer. So, and this is effectively where people come together in social networks and can either eliminate the insurance company or pull together to create a scheme. So what Friendsurance does is it allows people to come onto a social platform to put onto the platform specific risks that they have, okay? It allows them to create an insurance pool so that, and people with a common risk come together into a pool. They can self-insure each other, or they can go to an insurance company, either on a direct insurance basis or an XOL basis, to insure that pool. And of course, this is a win-win for all. You get the benefit of scale for the insurance company and for the customers. And this concept, actually, I'm starting to see in the Middle East, interestingly, which I think is really interesting. Another concept that I want to talk about is microinsurance. Again, this is something which is increasing in penetration, and also we're seeing in the Middle East. I've highlighted two examples because these are two different examples of how microinsurance can be used to help customers. Trove is a US-based company which does microinsurance for goods. So if you buy a phone, or if you buy a fridge, or if you buy something like that, what you do is you simply take a picture of it, and then it will generate an insurance quote for it, and you swipe and you're insured, okay? Very, very simple and very, very quick. Tokyo Marine have an app which has a slightly different take on microinsurance. What this app does, it does personalized recommendations to you based on your behavior and location. So the classic example that people often give to this is in Japan, there are some mountains where people go and ski in the weekend. So when it detects that you are in the proximity of this mountain, it will offer you travel insurance, a weekend travel insurance for your ski holiday, which you can very easily accept. So this links in very strongly to the changing customer expectations at the minute towards insurance on demand. I want the insurance I want, where I want it, when I want it. I don't want to overpay. I don't want any more coverage than I need. And microinsurance addresses a lot of those expectations. Now, when I talk to people about these sorts of innovations, a lot of the feedback I get is, look, this is more mature markets, this is far away, it's not relevant to our market, doesn't apply here. And I counter that just by showing people lots of examples of innovation in the Middle East. So the Middle East, I think, is a great location for innovation for a couple of reasons. First of all, the market here isn't as complex as you might find in the UK or the US, either from a business point of view or a regulatory point of view. And that gives people the opportunity to be a bit more innovative. Second of all, the local governments in the Middle East are very interested in innovation and promoting innovation as part of economic diversification strategies. So if you look at operations like the DAFC FinTech Hive or even the Bahrain FinTech Bay here in Bahrain, they are incubating a whole series of fintechs and insurtechs which are coming to the market. Now, I've seen a lot of them. Some of them are great. Some of them need a little bit more work. But the point is that innovation isn't a straight line process, okay? It's not as simple as we identify a solution, we find a problem, we bring that to market, okay? For innovation to be successful, there has to be a tolerance for failure, okay? It's okay to try something and for that thing not to work and you try again. And you have to also, what's important when innovating is being able to test and learn. So to say, okay, that didn't work. Let me try a variation of that. What did I learn from this that I can take into my next iteration? The very famous innovator, Richard Branson, often said that he built and failed with 10 companies before he found one that worked. Okay, and now you can see how successful he has been. So if you look across the Middle East, there's a huge number of examples of innovation that I think demonstrate that innovation is relevant here, and these technologies are. Okay, now let's talk about what this means for you as an insurance company. So EY has done a little bit of thinking about the future of insurance. We call it our Next Wave Insurance series. And that series looked at what is the insurance sector going to look like in 5 or 10 years. Okay, and there are a number of points that have been identified as key parts of that. All right, I'm not going to go talk to all of these, but I do want to talk to 3 of them mainly. Okay, the first one is number 2. Okay, direct, digital, and embedded sales become dominant channels. And the reason I want to talk about this is because some people still think of digital as a channel, all right? I think that's an outdated reference because actually digital technologies are needed to enable almost all channels now, be that direct, be that D2C call center, be that bank assurance, be that broker. All of these channels now require digital technologies and digital services. These could be B2C, B2B, B2B2C. So it's important to understand that there are the physical channels, as we once knew them, also need to be digitized. The second one is number 3, okay? Weaponizing data. So the explosion of data, as I mentioned earlier, is a huge opportunity for insurance companies. This data can be used for a number of different ways. It can be used for customer personalization. It can be used for pricing and propensity modeling. It can be used for productivity optimization. There's 101 uses for these, and all of these uses drive value to the business. And what's important is that you, number 1, have the data in a structured way and have the ability to use it. And then the last one that I want to talk about is number 6, the ecosystem expands. Now, as the digital landscape has evolved, companies have moved from modular digital services to platform-based digital services, now to ecosystem-based digital services. And that talks to the rise of the insurtech ecosystem and the fact that a lot of the functionalities that a core system or a digital platform might have once done can now be done better and cheaper by a third-party insurtech. What that is doing is that is shrinking the functionality that is on a core system or a digital platform. But what that means is that insurance companies need to have the architecture in place to be able to move into the ecosystem and to link in with these insurtechs in a seamless way. I heard some of the panelists talk earlier about the rise of the API architecture and so on. This is an extremely important point for insurance companies. All right, so how do we build a response to this? I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about how you as an insurance company should respond to innovation in the sector. This slide talks to the transition between a traditional insurer to a digital insurer, okay? Now it's very wordy here, but the bit I wanted to focus on is the bit in the center, all right? So this is a traditional insurance company, product-centric, process-focused, rooted in tradition, legacy, and resistant to change. Traditionally, these features have been celebrated in the insurance sector. So many times you've heard our insurance company is 400 years old. We have very strong processes and controls. We've got great products. So we need to change that because the insurance company of the future is customer-centric, experience-focused, innovation at the core, and agile and adaptive. When we talk about customer-centric, I often see insurance companies here where you have a group of insurance professionals sitting in a room looking at customer journeys and trying to decide what customers want. And I said, honestly, you're the last people in the world who should be deciding this. We need to interact with customers, engage with them, talk to them, and get the feedback. Great customer experiences are a minimum requirement. Constant innovation at the core, and very, very important, very agile and very adaptive. So if you look at what a great digital insurance company looks like, you have teams of people that come in on a Sunday morning, they look at the data from the week before, they come up with some hypotheses about what they're going to change this week about the proposition. Through Monday and Tuesday, they will develop and test those changes. On Wednesday and Thursday, they will deploy them to their production services. And then on Sunday, the cycle starts all over again. So you have weekly updates to digital services. When I did the digital transformation with my last company, within the first month of having the platform live, we had done more than 30 changes, okay? Because that is how a great digital insurer is constantly changing, constantly improving. What are the focus areas of digital transformation? There's been a lot of talk about this by the other presenters and the other panelists, okay? We talked about the need for it to be business owned. We talked about the need to leverage insurtechs. We talked about the importance of customer experience. There are some other ones that people sometimes neglect. Digital governance, okay? If you have a very agile organization where you're making changes every week, you need to change your governance structure. But you need to not eliminate the governance, you need to adapt it because there's still chances of mistakes. Digital organization and culture, this is a critical success factor, okay? You need to have people that can think quickly, can act quickly, and can respond quickly. You need to have a culture where it's okay to test and learn, to not get it right first time, but to learn and continue. So these are things that need to be considered when you're starting out on a digital transformation. There is one pitfall, which I see over and over again, which I wanted to explain to you today. I often have people that come to me saying, look at this great technology that I have. This is going to transform the insurance sector, all right? And then I ask the question, which is, okay, so what's the value add? Where is it going to add value to the business? And the response is, well, you know, we don't know, we could do this or we could do that. There are lots of technologies out there looking for solutions, okay? We have to reverse that. It has to be solution oriented. And then we look to which technologies can help us solve those solutions. We also have to be cognizant of the threats that digital brings, okay? There are new risks and new threats that are emerging through digital technologies. We have the risk of cybercrime, okay? And there has been instances of that in the Middle East. There are threats of new competitors. There's often a lot of talk about Google and Amazon and their potential entry to the insurance sector and also what impact that could have. We have data confidentiality risks as well, which need to be kept in mind. And we also have risks of, I mean, if you look at things like driverless cars, and the potential of that to dramatically contract the motor insurance market, that's going to change, completely revamp the business model for a lot of insurance companies here in the Middle East. So we need to be cognizant of the threats as well as the opportunities. Okay, the last messages that I wanted to leave you with before we close the session, and these are probably my top 6 lessons learned from digital transformation, both as an insurance company professional and as a consultant. We need to focus on customer problems and not marketing products. We need that shift between customer centricity from product centricity to customer centricity, okay? You need to understand that your business model has to move to adapt to ecosystems and partnerships. The concept of the monolithic insurance company in isolation is gone. You need to be part of ecosystems in order to succeed. When developing digital services, my strong advice is always start with a minimum viable product, an MVP, that provides the greatest value and work up from there. Why is that? Because 2 things. Number one, at this stage, nobody can afford to do a 2-year digital transformation and only get ROI at the end of that. Okay, it's not something which can be on the cards anymore. You need to deliver value early, and you need to do that through MVPs, which are value-based. That also gives you the opportunity to test and learn, and to say, from this MVP, what did I learn? How can I improve next time? Number 4, it's really critical to find a clear IT and data architecture at the start. Okay, if you don't get the foundations right, all you're doing is storing up problems for the future. This is called technology debt, which is quite a big concept at the minute. If you get the architecture right from the start, you can build using MVPs on that. And what you'll find is you don't have to make those big investments in the future. You need to recognize you need a different culture and organization structure for a digital organization. I talked about agility earlier, and you need to find a way to impart that. And then finally, we talk about a dual speed approach to change. So there is still a need for large multi-year transformational programs, and IFRS 17 is a good example of that for a lot of companies that requires traditional approaches. But alongside that, you need to have a much more agile, a much more responsive change process for deploying digital services. Okay. So it's been a very rapid 25-minute or 30-minute presentation. I hope it's been useful. I'm not sure if I have time for any questions, but I'm very happy to answer any that I have.